Right, Rabbi Sai, welcome. This morning we're learning Siman Toft Sadi. We're up to Sif Vav, which is the bottom of page 194. Sif Vav. B'chol Yomei Chalamoyed. Every day of Chalamoyed Pesach, Ushnei Yomim Tovim Achroinim, and the last 2 days of Pesach, Kairin, we read the Sefer Ravi, the fourth Aliyah, reads the Sefer Sheni from the second Sefer, the Karbonos HaMusafin, Sheba Pinchas, from the Musaf Karbonos, which is in Parashas Pinchas, which means the first three Aliyahs are from one parasha, and the last Aliyah, the fourth Aliyah, is from Parashas Pinchas. Now we know in Chol Hamoed one has 4 Aliyahs. The obligation is 4 Aliyahs. Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, Mincha, 3 Aliyahs. Chol Hamoed, Rosh Chodesh, 4 Aliyahs. Yom Tov, 5 aliyahs. In Kippur, 6 aliyahs. Shabbos, 7 aliyahs. So the fourth aliyah is from a second sefer. This is unlike a Shabbos, let's say Shabbos Chol Hamoed, where the 7 aliyahs are Shabbos, let's say Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. The 7 aliyahs are from the Setra. Because it's Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, the second sefer will read the mafti. Here, the second sefer is not being used as a mafti. Second sefer is being used to fulfill the quota of the 4 aliyahs. Umaschil v'kravtem ad sof piska, and the fourth aliyah is from v'kravt until the end of that parak. Sif Koton Yud Kern B'Ravi Haravi Koyal Chalamoid, talking about Chalamoid. Again, as I explained, since this fourth aliyah, although it's being read from the second Sefer Torah, the fourth aliyah is an obligatory aliyah of the day. One must have 4 Kairim, 4 aliyahs on Chol Hamoed. So Kaddish is only recited after the second Sefer has been read. However, on a Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, for example, where the 7 aliyahs read from the first Sefer and the Rosh Chodesh is read as an additional maftir, so then Kaddish is recited at the end of learning from the first Sefer. One therefore only says Kaddish on Chol Hamoed after the fourth oile, that all 4 aliyahs have been completed. On Yom Tov, Shabbos, and Kippur, then the required number of aliyahs are fulfilled and completed on the first sefer. So on completion of the first sefer, one says Kaddish. Al Kain, Omen take a Kaddish before Maftir, Kodesh Kohen Maftir, one reads, says Kaddish, and then one has Maftir, which is an additional aliyah, not part of the obligatory number of aliyahs. If a person did say Kaddish too early, then the Jew should bring down, he should say Kaddish again later. Additionally, the Jew should bring over here that, which is well known, is a discussion as to whether one has to bring the first sefer back in order to say Kaddish, and the answer is no. One only needs to say Kaddish on the sefer which has been completed. If there's another sefer that's still coming, you'd bring that onto the bimah before the Kaddish. One doesn't bring back a sefer that's already been put away. For example, here, Chol Hamoed Pesach, one saying Kaddish on the second sefer, and the first sefer has already been completed and already being held, one doesn't bring it back to the bimah. That's in contrast with the case, for example, of Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, when one says Kaddish after the first sefer is completed, one brings a second sefer which is about to be read to the table, to the bimah, and then one says Kaddish. Sif Koton Yud Aleph. Sif Zayin. Leil Yom Tov Achron, on the last day of Pesach, in fact, both last days of Pesach, Mekadshin ala Yayin, one makes Kiddush on wine and shul, but Ein is man without saying Shehechionu. V'ayim b'tfilas, over Kiddush and Tfilah, and in Kiddush one says the man Cheroseinu, the time of our freedom. K'moy b'Yom Tov Rishon, like the first days of Pesach, it's also both the man Cheroseinu. It's the same one long Yom Tov, and that's where there's no Shechianu. This contrasts with Shmini Atzeres, which is a separate Yom Tov in the Torah, and therefore that one does recite Shechianu. There were those who wanted to say Zman Simchoseinu, but we don't say Zman Simchoseinu because the Mitzrayim were drowning in the sea. Ma'aseh Yodai Tov B'Yom, like we said yesterday. Sif Koton Yud Aleph. Yom Tov Achron, on the 7th and 8th night, B'Yim B'Shvi, B'Yim B'Shmini, B'Kash Al Yan, will make Kiddush on wine, or also B'Beis HaKnesses in shul. Why should we not make Kiddush in shul? We always make Kiddush in shul. And also this means that after the first 2 nights of Pesach, one doesn't say Kiddush in shul. That's how the reason is, as we've learned, even the poor person in Klal Yisrael has got 4 cups of wine, he doesn't need to make Kiddush in shul. Which is not applicable on the last days of Pesach, and therefore on the last days one does recite Kiddush in shul. Zman means the bracha of Shechianu is not recited on the 7th and 8th day of Pesach. The reason is it's not an independent yontif, it's just a continuation of the yontif of Pesach. To contrast Shmini Atzeres, which is in the Torah independent yontif. Interesting chiddush here in Dushu. I found that a massive chiddush. The Dushu he brings from Shlomo Zalman that if a person made a mistake and said Shechianu in Kiddush on the 7th night or 8th night of Pesach, he says it's not a hefsek. Although normally one may not be mafsik, one may not interrupt between a bracha and the drinking of the wine, etc. He says because the concern of a hefsek is hesach hadas, means if a person involves himself in different activity, that's considered a hefsek. It's a mindset. And here, since he thought he was obligated to say Shechianu, therefore it's no hesach hadas. His mindset has not been broken from the Kiddush, and therefore could continue to drink the wine and fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush, although he said the bracha of Shechianu, which completely has no place whatsoever on the last nights of Pesach, he said it in the middle of his Kiddush, it still wouldn't affect the Kiddush being effective. Massive Kiddush. Because it has no place in Kiddush. Big Kiddush now. Right, that's brought from Indusha number 13. The Mishnah Berurah now continues in Sivkot Yud Gimel. Mila shechol b'shvi shel Pesach b'shmini. If it falls on the 7th or 8th day of Pesach, one says Yemni Abosh Nech B'Tzudim, a special piyut which is said in honor of a bris. Many people say the bris Tzudah itself, but it's actually said in davening. And if there's a Mila on 7th or 8th day of Pesach, one says it couldn't go out Yisrael before Gal Yisrael. Chol b'Shabbos, if it's Shabbos, Oimim Kodim Shir Chadasha, you have to say it before Shir Chadasha. Mishum Shaz Negin a piyut so Brach Toidi couldn't go out Yisrael, because there's a different piyut called Brach Toidi, which is being said because it's to do with Shir Hashirim. Therefore, one has to say the Yom Rabosha before Shir Chadasha instead of before Gal Yisrael. But on the other hand, you don't see Yom Rabosha Machmas Mida, because when there's a Mida, Elam can call Shalom Chol b'Shabbos unless it falls on Shabbos. Additionally, if 7th day of Pesach falls on a Shabbos, then Oimimon says, but Yotzer in the bracha of Yotzer Birchas Shema, Hapiyutim the Piyutim Shal Shabbos Chol HaMoed of Shabbos Chol HaMoed. Since it's a Shabbos, so therefore Shir Hashirim is being recited, and therefore one takes the Piyutim which is recited normally on Shabbos Chol HaMoed, which is when Shir Hashirim would be recited if there is a Shabbos Chol HaMoed, and one says it on the 7th day of Pesach, which is the Shabbos. Piyutim Shal Shabbos Chol HaMoed, you said about Shir Hashirim, because whenever Shir Hashirim is read, we want to read those Piyutim which we would read on Shabbos Chol HaMoed. If the last day falls on Shabbos, again, so then Shir Hashirim will be recited on the last day. In the Bruchas Kriyas one says the Piyutim of Shabbos Chol HaMoed. Over Shmona Esrei, and in Shmona Esrei Mehafchim one changes. One says the Piyutim of the 7th day. Why does one do this? So the reason is because the Piyutim of Yotzer of Shabbos Chol HaMoed are authored by Shimshon HaGadol, and therefore we'd want also to say in the Shemona Esrei also the Piyutim of Shimshon HaGadol, and therefore we'd swap around Yom Shvi and Yom Shmini, because Yom Shvi is authored by Shimshon HaGadol. Tivtes. Shabbos Shechol B'Chol HaMoed. Shabbos Chol HaMoed. So how does this work? Says the Shulchan Aruch. This is the Seder. This is what happens. Arvis Shachris of Mincha, the Shemona Esrei of Shabbos Chol HaMoed, Mispalel Kedarkei Shel Shabbos. One recites the normal Shabbos Shemona Esrei. And one says Yalav Yavoy in Ritzei. Over Musaf and on Musaf, over Seder Musaf Yom Chol HaMoed. When Musaf, one says the Yom Tov Musaf, Elishamaska Shel Shabbos, adding in Shabbos. One says Vatitin Lonash Esyim HaManoach Hazeh Yom Chagamatzos. As one mentions Shabbos and Yom Tov, we know already Yom HaManoach is referred to as Yom HaShabbos in our terms. We also say when we're bringing the Musafim of Shabbos, Yom HaShabbos and Yom HaMatzos, One finishes off the bracha with Kaddish Yisrael Vazmanim, mentioning both Shabbos and Yom Tov. Haftir and Hoysalai and Haftarah on Shabbos Chol Hamoed is that some Yivesha is the dry bones of Cheskel, which discussed Tchias HaMeisim. Yeah, so the Shulchan Aruch is saying that in the Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv is a Shabbos Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv with the addition of Yad of Yova, it would say, but the Musaf is a Yom Tov Musaf with the addition of Shabbos in the Tefillah. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Brura so far. Sif Kotan Yud Dalet, Maftir and Hoysa Online. Hamul in Tchias HaMeisim discuss Tchias HaMeisim. The reason is Tchias HaMeisim will be Nisan. Tchias HaMeisim will be in Nisan. The Gog Magog will be Tishri, and Gog Magog, the wolf Gog Magog will be in Tishri. Okay, therefore, Maftir and Nisan in Nisan will read some motivations which discuss Tchias HaMeisim with Tishri B'Yom by Gog Magog. Says the Ramah. Hagar, 4 lines up. The Ein Maskir in Rebirkas Haftarah, the Pesach, Loi Be'emsa Loi B'Chasima. On Shabbos Chol Hamoed, one doesn't mention the fact that it's Pesach. One just concludes, B'Kadesh HaShabbos. Mishnah Brura will say this is in contrast to Sukkot. On Shabbos Chol Hamoed, during the Haftarah, one does mention both Shabbos and Yisrael Vazmanim. One mentions Shabbos and the Yom Tov. And Mishnah Brura brings the reason, as similar to what we said yesterday, that every day of Sukkot is considered an independent day of Yom Tov, and therefore when we recite the Haftarah, we also mention the fact it's Yom HaSukkos because it's sort of like an independent day of Sukkot. Although true, Sukkot is not Mechayiv Haftarah because it's Chol Hamoed. Chol Hamoed doesn't say Haftarah, but nevertheless, since it's a special day of Chol Hamoed, of being Karbonos, therefore when one's saying Haftarah, one mentions Shabbos and Yom Tov as well. In Pesach, all the Karbonos were the same throughout. Therefore, during the Haftarah, one just recites Shabbos. Although the opinion of the Vilna Gaon, who disagrees, he says that both on Sukkot and on Pesach, one only says Kaddish Shabbos on during the Haftarah, because the Haftarah is only obligated by the Shabbos and not by the Chol Hamoed. We'll see this. Let's see the Mishnah Brura straight away. Sivkot and Tesvav, the Ein Maskirin. The Mishnah Brura says on Pesach, one doesn't mention Yom Tov. During the Brachos Haftarah, just simply Mekadosh Shabbos, Sivkot and Tes Zayin, to be Shabbos Shechol Yibchag Shebechol Hamoed Pesach, Ein Haftarah Ba Ela B'Shvil Shabbos. Well, that the only reason you're using Haftarah is because of Shabbos. For Ein Maftir B'Navi B'Shayim Either Chol Hamoed. Chol Hamoed is not a reason to read from the Navi. Therefore, one says Brachos Haftarah can be B'Shay Shabbos, but just as Mekadosh Shabbos. As I just mentioned, the Shabbos Chol Hamoed Sukkos, Messiah Kaddish Shabbos Yisrael Vazmanim. One does mention the Yom Tov as well. In the middle of the bracha of Haftarah, one says it's Yom HaShabbos Hazeh, there's Yom Chag HaSukkos Hazeh. Why? So maybe Yom Tov is Shabbos Sukkos. Why? The reason is Shekol Yom v'Yom Chol Hamoed Sukkos u'Kamoed b'Fnei Atzmei Mishum Techalukim b'Karbonos HaMosafin. Since every day of Chol Hamoed, every day of Sukkot is an independent Yom Tov, different Karbonos, therefore it's also mentioned during the Haftarah. The others mention a different reason, that on Sukkot one says, since on Sukkot one says full Hallel, so therefore one mentions also Mekadosh, one mentions Sukkot during one reason Haftarah, Mashiach Pesach, one doesn't say full Hallel, one doesn't mention the Yom Tov in the Haftarah. Again, it's difficult to know what reason, why the reason has any effect on the bracha. This is all true. It is true that Sukkot is every day is separate Yom Tov and every day is separate Hallel, but at the end of the day, it's only Shabbos which is Mechayev the Haftarah and not the Yom Tov. So why should you mention the Yom Tov even on Sukkot? And this is really the Gaon's Taina as brought here down in the Yeshua 18. Says the Ramah, 3 lines up. The custom is to say Shir Hashirim b'Shabbos Chol Hamoed on Shabbos Chol Hamoed. Shabbos Yom Tov Achrin, if the last day of Pesach is Shabbos, Shabbos, then you say Shir Hashirim on the last day of Pesach. Also the same theme, same idea that it's always on a Shabbos. And on Shavuos when we read Rus, we don't recite a bracha on these Megillos, and there's a discussion in Jewish whether to say Shechayonu on it or not. We don't say a bracha generally speaking at all, as the Ramah says, but there are those, as Mishnah will say, there are those that do say a bracha. We'll see that in a minute. Says the Mishnah Brura Sivkot Yodayin, one says custom to say Shir Hashirim on on Shabbos Chol Hamoed. And Dirshu 9:20 actually says Shabbos was chosen because Shabbos is a big olam, a big tzibur, and more people come on Shabbos than on Yom Tov, and therefore one recites it on Shabbos, which is interesting. There should be more people coming on Shabbos than on Yom Tov. This is brought down from Igros Moshe. Why should more people come to Shul on Shabbos than Yom Tov? Maybe on Yom Tov people are more busy preparing the food because you can cook on Yom Tov, perhaps. Okay, Tzivkatan Yud Zayin. Noyagin Leima. The Noyagin Leima Shir Hashirim. Tzivkatan Yud Zayin. Mipnei Shemaforish by Indian Yitzhak Mitzrayim. Shir Hashirim expresses the Yitzhak in the honor of Yitzhak Mitzrayim of a Sukkos, and on Sukkos Keheles when Shehim Simcha, because these are days of Simcha. But and the Pasuk says, "But Keheles the Simcha Mazal." So what's the purpose of Simcha? But Rus b'Shavuos and Rus on Shavuos, Isa b'Yalkut Rus. It says in the Yalkut in Rus the Medrash, Moing in Rus till Keheles. What's Rus got to do with Atzeres with Shavuos? Shnikas with Bambat Torah should be read on Shavuos. The Lamed to teach us Lenit La Torah. El Adi Yisurim v'Oini. Torah is only acquired through pain and suffering and poverty. The not good. According to B'Yom Sheni, the customers read on the second day of Shavuos. And that's why we read Rus on Shavuos. Yeah, because Rus also acquired the Torah only through poverty and affliction. So we got Shabbos Shel Chol Hamoed. One reads it on Shabbos Chol Hamoed. Mepnei Piyutim Shalei Shabbos Misodin on Shir Hashirim. The Piyutim on Shabbos Chol Hamoed are also to do with Shir Hashirim. So you've got your test for Nago. The custom is that people are accustomed not to make the bracha on Mikra Megillah or Mikra Ksuvim Chines Kemataz. That's what the Taz says. He agrees like this, like the opinion of the Ramah. But Magen Avraham, he says he agrees most of our posting with other posting, but Tzrichim Devarich Al Kulam to read on all the Megillas, Chutz min Keheles apart from Keheles, because the Gemara says Shabbos they wanted to hide the book of Keheles. He says no, even on Keheles one should make a bracha because the Keheles is Metamis Yadayim, is considered one of the books of the Megillas, and it's Metamis Yadayim. It makes a person's hands impure, like the other Megillas as discussed in the Gemara Megillah. Somebody has a custom to make a bracha, at least when it's written on the parchment. Sure, one needn't protest. Yom Tov shechol yud b'Shabbos. If Yom Tov was on Shabbos, oin b'mincha in mincha before Kriyas Torah, one says when he's filosi l'chashem yisrotzen v'korin the Seder Hashavua. One reads the Seder of the week on Shabbos afternoon, and it's a